So I've got some really important things that we want to tell people.
This is for our fashion forward friends.
Yeah, which evidently it's not me, but
Or me. However,
you're so fashion. You are fashion forward.
I'll take that, but also probably because my friend's a stylist.
Yeah, well,
Which leads us
you're
to...
my friend and I have no excuse. But what I just learned minutes ago, friends, even seconds if I'm being specific. So for those of you watching YouTube, thank you so much. If you're not, this might not make sense. I'll explain. I'm wearing a light green shirt and Amie's wearing a blue, like a denim jacket. And I said, blue and green should never be seen unless there's something in between. And I was getting ready to get up and go and get changed. And then she said...
No.
Her stylist friend said it's a myth. Brilliant.
I remember, so my girlfriend Ivana, hello darling, if you're listening to this. First of all, currently styling celebrities in LA.
So we'll trust her. She's a
a
reputable
big deal.
source.
Yeah, but she did a styling... No, yes. Oh my God, why does that feel so long ago? It is. It's the year I got sick with mold. I do reference it when I talk about my mold story because it was actually the day we were trying on all my clothes where I got really a lot worse. But anyway, she put me in a pair of like dark green, like almost like leather style pants and a light blue shirt. And I said exactly what you said. BS. So I think it does depend. I think I'm not going to just quote her and say that's a blanket rule. But like also question everything, and we might have to somehow get her on the podcast and talk about fashion and how it improves your health. Maybe that's our segue.
Maybe then I'll be inspired to be more fashionable.
Yeah, go on. All right, we'll talk about that.
I mean I do get it in the sense of it feels good to look good. So I really understand it from that sense, and also like the self-expression that can come with it as well. And you know what, when I reflect, because often people will say, what kind of Leo are you if you're not into fashion? And I'm like, I don't know, maybe it just all got taken up with the with the other qualities, there was no space to care about that. When I was younger, I will say that I was more into it, but I also think that I found it easier to dress myself and my body when I was younger. But since not being a gaunt anorexic human who now actually has curves and muscles and is still short, it's a little bit more challenging. So I do. And I think I also, the style that I tend to like, as in just generally without considering what suits me, I don't think actually suits my body that well.
Yeah, right.
So maybe, and every time I have tried in the past to dress in a way that probably is more complementary to my natural shape or whatever, I feel uncomfortable, and so I don't do it. So now I just buy surfy boho kind of clothing and ignore the rules a little bit.
Good. Well, we're all here ignoring the rules, including blue and green. So if this is offending your eyes, sorry about it, but we're not changing.
Yeah, no, we're not. I was willing to for you, but no, we're not. Plus, it's a whole situation to get out of this chair and out the door right now.
With the two dogs.
Well, speaking of rules, actually that's not a great segue because we're not talking about rules, we're talking about trends, so never mind. We thought it would be fun to pull out some of the trends that we have noticed coming up a fair bit on social media and just in conversations with our friends or with our clients, and give it a bit of like a yay or nay. Do we love it? Do we hate it? What do we think? And I'm going to kick off with probably one that I, to be fair, have spoken about plenty on here, but just want to call it out that I don't think it's just a silly trend, and that is getting some electrolytes in and increasing sodium intake. So yes, it's a big thing. I feel like it has really become more of a big thing, particularly in the last maybe 18 months, I'm going to say, at least in my circles and awareness. And while nothing is for everybody, I really do think that at least the kinds of people that would be listening to this podcast, it potentially is something to consider. So why I feel partly that is because for a lot of you listening, and for us as well, we follow very much a whole foods based diet. Like most of our food, or if this is you, most of your food is not highly processed. You're not getting majority of your food as a packaged item. And that is actually where the majority of sodium or salt intake actually comes from. It's not usually coming from just a whole foods based diet. It's usually coming from the processed nature of food. So when you're not having a lot of processed food, it means that you're probably not getting enough salt unless you're really generously salting all of your meals. And then I also think the other component to that is that for a lot of people who are either active, who are currently a little bit stressed, or who are caffeinating themselves daily, they are all extra reasons or contexts where perhaps our sodium needs increase a little bit as well. And I personally have found electrolytes, Sodi being my favourite brand, as everyone knows, to be such a game changer for me, particularly in the sense of feeling really stable in my nervous system and in my energy and in my recovery from my workouts as well. And, each to their own, but I'd also actually say clinically, I've had a lot of people respond really well. Definitely not everybody. Some people they're not for, and I do think it is worth getting a professional opinion if you're going to be using, a gram or more of something that has sodium or salt in it. Like I do think it's worth just getting a bit of an opinion before you just kind of go adding heaps and heaps of extra sodium into your diet or into your body. But I'm overall a fan, and I think it's here to stay.
I think so too. And I think what you said about who listens to our podcast is really important. So I would imagine if you've tuned into our podcast, you have an interest in health, maybe even a deep passion. You are committed to improving your well-being in any number of ways, including eating as well as you can. Now, this is not to say that you eat perfectly, because A, no such thing, B, boring, C, we don't either. But when you are eating predominantly whole foods, the overall intake of sodium and potentially other electrolytes, but sodium most specifically, is vastly different. I've been looking at my tracker actually just before we came on to record, and potassium just as another example. Also shout out Sodi, great potassium levels. I think yesterday I only had 860 milligrams of a 2,600 milligram requirement for potassium. No wonder I had like a cramp in my thigh. And it's just really, as Nat said, unless you're actually intentionally seasoning your food with salt, whether it's Celtic sea salt or Himalayan rock, whatever it is, and really like tracking the volume, you probably are suboptimal. And that can be problematic in different ways, as excessive sodium intake or excessive electrolyte intake. Now, I am concerned about how popular they are and how much people might be chugging back, especially those who are eating a standard Australian diet.
Yeah.
I'm sure there are probably GPs who've had people come in who are just well in excess of their recommended amount, which is really, back to your point, speak to your practitioner about what's right for you and the right dose. But I will also say, generally speaking, big fan, and also there are many conditions that benefit from that as well. Certainly in clients of mine with mold illness, where there's inflammation and a part of the brain that regulates urine production, they're often urinating a lot, whether or not they feel thirsty. Often they do, sometimes they don't, but they're losing a lot of electrolytes through their urine, which changes the osmolality of the blood and can be really problematic. This is also, by extension of that, including POTS patients. POTS is a secondary condition to mold or some other chronic inflammation, and chronic inflammation does affect kidney function, brain function, urine retention, electrolyte retention. So specifically for certain patient classes, they're essential for well-being, but also for anyone who's remotely connected to us here on the podcast because of a mutual love of health and well-being. You're probably not getting enough from your diet, so definitely worth considering. So that's 2 thumbs up, right?
Yeah.
One for me, one for you.
Sorry. Also, there could just be some listeners that were just here to hear all the shit stories, like the poo stories you tell.
Oh, I know.
We didn't think of that cohort, so that could be a mixed bag.
Well, actually, speaking of shit stories, if you've had diarrhea, you also need electrolytes.
Yeah, true.
Post-food poisoning.
You must have a supply in your cupboard for all the moments that you've needed them.
Well, also post-coffee enema.
Yeah.
Too, by the way. Anyone on the coffee enema train, like the last part of your intestine is where we absorb, all the fluid back and like recycle a lot of those minerals. And if you are doing coffee enemas, particularly regularly for any reason, you're going to be losing a lot more through the bowel as well. So really, it's just an all-round goodie.
All right, let's call out another one. What's another one that is on your...
All right. I tell you what, I mean, it's like herpes of social media at the moment, and that's creatine.
Glad you're not on the PR team for creatine.
No, this is not a criticism of creatine. No. I mean, I tell you what, the PR team for creatine works harder than the devil and Kris Jenner, because every mother ever is talking about it.
Yeah.
But for really good reasons. So I remember back in the early 2000s when I was a spring chicken, and creatine was just like, the gym bro territory.
Yes.
And it was like getting a pump on, lifting heavy, building muscle as fast as humanly possible. And yes, it's good for all of that. But actually, I feel like it's partly because there has been another trend, which we're not talking about today, but this revival of like women claiming back their health and well-being and talking about perimenopause. Now that conversation has become very public, so too has been what's helping, what do we need to do, how do we support ourselves through this transitionary period. And so creatine, whilst it's still amazing for power and speed and performance, incredible before a weights workout at the gym, the fact that women now know that their muscle mass matters too is really setting us up for success with that. And then beyond that, though, what we have seen is an emergence of research around higher doses and the effect elsewhere in the body. And creatine's definitely a part of the framework that I would use for my old clients with fatigue, and perhaps any fatiguing illnesses could benefit from this. But the brain actually uses around 25% of all the energy that we make, which means the minute we're not making quite enough energy for whatever reason, brain function often will struggle. And we certainly know in perimenopause with synaptic pruning, brain function is another thing. Women are often saying, I'm not functioning correctly. And it's the higher doses of creatine for brain function, for cognition, for clarity that I am most excited about. My brain is like my biggest asset now that I got my boob implants out. Prior to that, it was the double Ds. But I lost my brain for a long time with mold, and so I have taken a very special interest in brain enhancing things in the last 7 or 8 years. And my favorite thing about creatine is high doses. So you can talk about doses in a minute and what you recommend, but the upper end, 25, 30 grams sometimes, has been shown, if you've had a terrible night's sleep, which of course means your brain is like mush the next day, dosage in that realm will actually overcome brain fatigue so powerfully your brain will function better than if you'd had a full night's sleep. Now that is something I need to know about. And I have not been using it at that level at all. I think I've been using low, 2.5 to 5 grams. But let's say I've had a terrible night's sleep and I need to switch my brain on. Just a serving in the morning and then another serving in the afternoon, it is like rocket fuel. I haven't felt the need to use anything higher. I can see why some people might want to or need to, but yes, absolutely love it.
That's good. Yeah, I often mostly use, and this is just a byproduct of the kinds of doses that most of my clients would need is around 5 to 10 grams.
Same.
But I think, I am a fan as well. And I think some people get concerned about the potential for a bit of fluid retention, but I don't think that it's very significant, and it's also often fleeting. So it often does pass relatively quickly if that's going to happen for you. And it's not weight gain in the sense of like body fat gain.
It just pulls water into the muscle cells, so they expand a bit momentarily.
So tick double thumb.
Double thumb.
God, we're great YouTubers. We pulled out the double thumbs.
We will get better at this, we promise.
Next, we're going to be making peace signs, next to our head.
I'm banning it.
Okay.
No.
You won't allow it?
Drawing the line.
All right, fine. I guess it's thumbs it is. Okay, so next one is one that I'm not giving a thumbs up to. But anyway, is the trend of carnivore or eating really low fibre diets.
Lion diet.
Oh, I know that. Lion diet. Like, because you just
meat.
A primal...
Yeah.
Eat meat
Hunter,
eating.
Savannah Hunter. I know.
Sidebar. I went to the zoo with... I don't know why that's funny. It's not funny. I went to the zoo with my niece, and she's 3, and I hate the zoo, just so you know. I love my niece. I love watching her at the zoo, but I just really don't love the zoo because I find it really challenging to see animals in cages or in captivity, especially ones, I mean all of them, but especially ones where I'm like, they've also pulled them so far out of their normal environment. And the prime example of this is this is in Sydney, and there was a cheetah. What the fuck? I was so sad, and it was so beautiful. Like it's such a beautiful animal, but I'm like, isn't it like the fastest creature on earth or something close to that? And yeah, sure, it was in a big enclosure, but you can't reach max speed in there, and it's not Africa.
No.
I don't know where else they are. I think they're just in Africa. I'm not really cheetah literate, but I'm literate enough to know that they shouldn't be there. Anyway, I don't know how I got there.
Lion diet.
Yeah, okay, thank you. So back to what I was saying is I understand that, and I will not argue that people do get good symptoms. Some people get good symptom relief by following a meat-only based diet or a carnivore diet. But to me, I also feel like that is a sign that something is potentially off, not a sign of, oh, I finally found the right diet for me. Because I think, for a few reasons, one, I think historically, ancestrally, we actually have always had a mix of both in our diet. Obviously that's ebbed and flowed depending on season, location. I think the ancestral line of thinking is helpful to a degree, but we're also operating in a world that looks very different to what that was. But regardless of that, I also think that there has been a lot of research done showing the benefits of fibre. So that's another reason why I do think that working yourself to a place where you're able to tolerate fibre and get the benefits of that is ideal. There's been, to my knowledge, not a clear weighing up of the research where we see that fibre is a net negative. If anything, a lot of that nutrition research around fibre only has positive outcomes. I won't pretend to have read every study everywhere, but I'm saying in a general sense that's true. I also think that, the other thing is there's a number of people where having a meat only or a really high meat diet actually would be like a detriment. I would be included in this. So people who have a tendency to actually accumulate iron, so a condition called hemochromatosis, or even if you don't have full hemochromatosis, if you just have a tendency towards higher iron levels, it's something where you're then onboarding more of an oxidative stress and you're minimizing some of the antioxidants that can provide protection against that. I also think that, you know, when we're talking about a meat-only diet or we are going down that path, I don't know, there's a lot of joy and social isolation that can happen from that too.
Yeah.
And not that I think, I mean, I do know actually a few friends who eat carnivore and don't find it restrictive socially or in any which way at all. So I'm not saying that it's not possible, but I'm more speaking to the people who read about it, see it and go, oh, I really should try that, but shit, it's hard to fit in with my lifestyle, my budget, my family. So I guess I'm more giving those people a bit of a permission slip to say it may not actually be the answer, or at least the extreme version of it may not be the answer. But I certainly think it's a hint that there's some kind of metabolic inflexibility or digestive issues or food intolerances or dysregulated immune or inflammatory pathways, and that's worth looking into.
And in that case, all you're doing is avoiding actually addressing the underlying problem. And you're living on borrowed time. I know I had a SIBO who decided against treatment because they went on the carnivore diet and felt great. And I'm like, of course you will, because all of that destruction in your gut that has destroyed the enzymes that would break down things like fibre and other carbohydrates are no longer being challenged while you're eating meat. But eating meat isn't fixing them either. It's not correcting the issue. And so you kind of paint yourself into a bit of a corner. And in fact, I have another old client who got to a point where they were doing the same. They were eating raw meat, raw eggs, and raw milk, and that was literally all they could eat. And at that point, they were still getting bloated. And so, you know, I think everything has a time and a place. And there are, personally, I think, better options to relieve symptoms. I think if this is a quick and easy way to relieve symptoms whilst you investigate the problem and start to work on it and actually get treatment, I'm not opposed to that at all. But I think what you and I are seeing, I mean, first of all, it's a red flag when people make their diet their personality. It doesn't matter what diet it is. I don't care if you're a breatharian, a vegan, a carnivore, a keto, or I don't know, above ground foods only, or like whatever, Newton's law, only things that fall on the floor can be eaten. I don't care what it is.
Is that a thing?
Yeah, there's definitely like, it's in the realm of veganism, but they won't pick fruit or vegetables. It's only if it falls off the tree or the bush.
Can you shake the bush?
I'd have to check the rule book.
That's probably like a very Aquarius kind of question. I'll just make my own.
Yeah, you're going to make your own rules. We have to
Actually,
look at your Aquarian placements.
I don't think I have very many Aquarian placements. I have a lot of fire. I have a lot of Sagittarius, Leo, Virgo.
Yes. You know what? I found that out about myself recently. I have a Virgo stellium. I have Virgo on like 3 planets. Explains a lot.
Yeah.
I feel like I can forgive myself a little for
that's good.
some of my anal tendencies.
Yeah, I actually think I'm more anal than probably people realise. Love a spreadsheet, don't I?
Oh, you love a spreadsheet more than I do.
I know.
Yeah.
Whenever someone's looking after my dog, you bet they're going to get 3 documents.
It's a whole bloody manual. You just about need an advanced diploma.
You actually need to sit a course before
Yes,
you can mind my dog.
You do. Where's my badge?
Maybe I'll create it as like, you know how in karate you've got like a white belt and then you get like a yellow tip and then you get the yellow belt. I think I'm going to do that.
Yes.
You'll love that system. You love being a winner.
I love it. Okay, that's perfect for an Enneagram
I know.
3. Challenge myself to get the black belt the fastest. Anyway, what a rogue segue. So back to rating the carnivore diet or the lion diet. Overall, so this is my vote. I'm going to go temporary, short-term symptom relief while you actually deal with the underlying problems. Okay,
I'm going to join you.
Other options, but okay. But long-term,
yeah.
No.
Yep.
That's 2 thumbs down for anyone not watching on YouTube.
Anyone who's still watching on YouTube deserves a black belt.
You deserve a black belt for putting up with our shenanigans.
Oh my gosh.
All right, what else
All right.
have we got here?
What's up next? This is you're up.
Okay.
You're up. I like this one.
I feel slightly nervous to say this one. And we're going to go quite niche with this. This falls under the category of whole food supplements, but we're going to specifically talk about oceanic derived minerals. Now, if anyone's like, what even is that? It is an overarching umbrella of getting minerals like calcium, zinc, magnesium, etc. from either Now, this is a nuanced area. So this isn't going to be a clear thumbs up or thumbs down, I don't think, from either of us. But what I will say as clinicians, we absolutely support getting nutrients from whole foods. Love it. Does the concept of creating supplements out of whole foods make sense in a way? Sure, absolutely. However, we also have to consider that there are elements of creating supplements out of whole foods that make them different to supplements that have been formulated in a more laboratory style way. There's two challenges with it. Number one, getting a standardized dose. So let's just use oyster powder, for example. I've seen many a client come in with many different brands. This is not a go at any brand, by the way. This is just a general conversation. But the amount of zinc, like milligrams per gram of powder, is often not standardized or not assessed, and therefore could be quite inconsistent, could be subtherapeutic, could be excessive, unless it's actually been analyzed. More concerningly, though, is in this case, oysters are the filter of the ocean. They filter a lot of heavy metals. They are collecting along the way a lot of man-made toxicants and pollutants. And how is that being separated from the actual material itself? Is it being separated? How much is in there? Obviously, depending on where said oysters are being sourced from will determine their exposure for sure, but also no one's monitoring every cubic inch of the ocean. I can tell you that for free. And so if you are looking at things like mercury, lead, cadmium, PCBs, dioxins, like the list is not endless, technically speaking. It's kind of long. I'm not going to bore you with further details.
Ooh, so sorry.
Never mind.
Dropped my phone.
You're going to be, if you just were to just continually eat oysters, this is the same problem with tuna and mercury. If you're just eating large volumes, you are also going to bioaccumulate those toxins. And what I have found so far is that for every client who's been taking an oyster powder, they have not been able to ascertain a certificate of analysis of that product, determining how much is actually in there. So that is a worry for me as a practitioner.
Yeah, I agree. And as you said, it's not a stab at any one brand. There may be brands out there that are doing the right thing and doing their due diligence. But I think as consumers, it's also on us to do our due diligence. And I think in that kind of situation, as you said, Ames, I'd be asking for a certificate of analysis. And if they can't provide you one, or they won't, like red flag, like that's your answer, because it's too important not to. And it is hard because, again, it's very easy to spin something in the way of, oh, but it's natural, it's coming from, we're not doing it in a lab, we're doing it by just like crushing these natural foods and extracting it. But I think we have to think more critically than just that, like not just what sounds good in theory and sounds very natural and wholesome, but what works in practicality, because sometimes an approach like that does work and it is the better option, and I would arguably sometimes it's not, and sometimes the expansion in modern medicine and the way that we can isolate nutrients does have its place and sometimes is the better option. I guess one way to look at that in a big picture sense is that we are now living in a world where there are far more environmental toxins built up in our environment. And so that's why I don't, like, I wish it was super simple. I feel like my job and my brain would be a lot more, it'd just be a lot simpler if, and sometimes I honestly wish that I could think like that, but I'm just too skeptical.
Yeah.
It's a problem.
But details girlies.
Yeah.
And like we said, it's not a criticism against any one brand. It's just if you're interested in taking one, please reach out to the manufacturer and say, hey, curious about your certificate of analysis. What can you provide me? So I can see, you know, what man-made contaminants are in there and how much. And then you'll know what to do after that, I imagine. So, look, so again, I would say this is a bit of a sideways thing.
Yeah.
In theory, we love the idea. In practice, it could be problematic. Just make sure you're asking the right questions before you pop it in your mouth hole.
Yeah, mouth hole. What a word. Okay, last one. We're having a conversation about this over lunch just before, is around the trend of the expectation, the pressure of never, ever, ever having coffee on an empty stomach. And if you do, just
go to jail.
Yeah.
Straight to jail.
Wellness girl, jail.
Fined.
You are not part of the club anymore. See ya. That's how it feels. Now,
you can't sit with us.
No, you can't. You cannot sit with us, especially not with your coffee. Hopefully you can hear the sarcasm and humour in that. If you can't, I don't know what to tell you. You're probably listening to the wrong podcast. So this was inspired by a few things for me. Is that one, I noticed a bit of a trend in clients, friends, you know, people that I interact with frequently, like feeling a lot of shame or feeling like they'd done something absolutely astronomically terrible when they were admitting to me that they'd just had a coffee on an empty stomach. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. Am I part of this problem or problematic messaging around that being something that you can never, ever do? And so I wanted to have more of a conversation about it because I actually think this is a little bit more nuanced than it just being, and a little bit less clear research-wise than probably what you've been led to believe, and maybe that we've led you to believe, which is why I wanted to at least have a conversation, and we may or may not be on the same page, but it's good to hear different opinions anyway. So one thing I do think is that, hopefully this is stating the obvious, but if it's not, I'll say it anyway. If you have coffee on an empty stomach and you feel jittery, anxious, like lightheaded, hangry, your energy crashes, you feel wired, you have diarrhea, your body is telling you that, hey, just letting you know, didn't love that. Don't love the coffee on an empty stomach. So that's feedback. Regardless of why it's happening, regardless of all the science behind it, that is enough evidence to say you as an individual, hey, this is not working out for me. I also do think that in theory, it is definitely true that caffeine in and of itself does spike things like adrenaline and cortisol. And your ability to handle that is actually going to differ person to person and context to context. For, like, as a personal example, I would say that probably a good couple of times a week, I would have coffee on an empty stomach. Recently, previously I was just having decaf, but since my New Zealand trip, I've been back on coffee again. So about a couple of days a week in my day-to-day, my week-to-week, routine, I would do that, but it'd always be prior to me like working out or doing something. And to be fair, it does also have a bit of like nut milk that has a bit of carbohydrate in it as well. So it's technically not just like black cup of coffee with nothing else. But I'm then going to liberate any of that, adrenaline, cortisol through like movement. And I also feel nothing bad. Like I don't feel any of those negative symptoms. But another example of that is if I've had a really shit night's sleep, and Amie was saying this happens to her as well, really shit night's sleep, or just going through a really stressful period, coffee absolutely makes that worse for me. Like mostly if I have it just on an empty stomach, not as much personally for me if I've had a good solid meal, but occasionally it will as well. And so that again is because I'm in a situation where my nervous system and it isn't particularly geared to handle that increase in adrenaline. And I'm also often in those situations not doing something to go and liberate any of that adrenaline. I'm just like sitting and feeling it all. So I do think that's one factor. The other thing that I also think is important to point out here is that it is what you do most of the time that makes most of the difference. And it's also the accumulation of your habits, both the supportive ones and the non-supportive ones, that sets the tone for your health. And why I'm saying this is definitely not to be like, everyone go out and have coffee on an empty stomach. Like, I think if you're not already in the habit of it, don't start.
Yeah.
But if there's like a day a week where that's just what you do and you feel no negative side effects from it, and you've got, all your other ducks in a row, or you're doing lots of other supportive things for your health, go for it. I'm not on board of this shaming of like having coffee on an empty stomach just across the board for everyone everywhere, and that you need to like hide it. So I know it sounds like I'm encouraging you towards it, but I'm really not. I more just want to help like de-shame some of that, and also let you know that there are instances where, you may handle it better than other times, and it's up to you what you do with that information. It's up to you if you're like, okay, cool, it's worth it for me. Because personally for me, one of my favorite things to do, for example, is like just get up, go for a surf, and then have a post-surf coffee with one of my girlfriends or my husband. And I don't particularly want to spend money to eating while I'm out. I don't want to have to think about bringing my breakfast or anything like that. And so often once a week I will just do that, and I enjoy it so much. And it's, the net positive is there for me personally.
I love that. And also I think, when we speak here on the podcast, we're often speaking to health conditions or recovering your health. And I'm pretty sure I tell every single client to wait till after breakfast to have coffee, but that's because they've landed in my clinic. We're working together because there's a problem. Maybe their cortisol's too high, cortisol's too low, unstable energy, anxiety, like whatever it is. And of course it doesn't make sense to do dicey things like that when you're not feeling great. And by the same token, personally, it's so frustrating and ironic, but like if I've had a terrible night's sleep and I'm super tired, coffee's going to make me feel even worse. It doesn't help me like it does some people. And that's a combination of my adrenal nervous system, etc., etc. So it's really about, are you in trying to shift your health from point A to point B, or are you just currently maintaining pretty good health and you're really in tune with your body? So
that's a great point.
Yeah, keep that in mind when we talk about, things that we promote or recommend. We're often thinking about someone who's unwell or isn't where they want to be health-wise yet, rather than someone who's doing quite well. And I will absolutely also put my hand up and say I've definitely had coffee on an empty tummy. I'm trying to think if I've done it in the last couple of weeks. I try not to make a habit of it, but sometimes I might have gone for a walk and I just really feel like one. I'm going past the Salt Mill, our local little coffee haunt, and I just will. I'm not going to take it home, eat breakfast, and then have it cold after. I'm just going to have it. But what I do is I don't make a habit of that. I think you're a little more liberal with coffee rules than
YOLO!
me. So if you're
Coffee's my thing.
if you're a mad coffee drinker, see her, because I'll be the party pooper. But generally speaking, like, don't make a habit of it. We're not promoting it. We're not saying, on an empty tummy is good, but it's not necessarily always bad for everybody. Or maybe it's like, maybe 10% wobbles you off an even keel, and in the scheme of things, that's not a big deal.
That's what I think. I agree with, as much as I'm joking about my YOLO caffeine love. I agree with you. I don't think it's the better choice, but I think if it's infrequent and you're not feeling bad from it and you're in health maintenance mode, you don't need to feel like...
It's not a big deal.
Yeah, you don't need to feel any shame around it. I mean, you don't need to feel shame around it anyway. You do you. But yeah, I definitely think that. The other thing I will also add that I do always do, because this makes a big difference to me, is I always have electrolytes when I first get up before I have any caffeine, regardless of whether or not that's going to be on an empty stomach, 1 day a week to 2 days a week, or whether that's going to be after food. And that makes a really big difference to me, because I think part of what happens is that overnight you lose sodium, and then if you have caffeine, on top of that, when you wake up, more sodium gets lost. Then it can throw off your blood pressure, and you can get similar symptoms as if you've got that kind of anxiety, like lightheadedness, can't ground yourself feeling. And I definitely have noticed for me, that's a non-negotiable, is I definitely will not have coffee without having had my electrolytes. But that's just personal observation of, like, I know I need that.
That's a really clever strategy, actually.
Just hack the system. Just hack the system. All right, that's the 5 trends that we've got for you today. I think hopefully that's been helpful. If not, I hope you've just been entertained for a short period of your life. And we will be back in your ear holes again next week. Although if you do have any other wellness trends you want us to do a review for, please let us know, because we came up with those 5, but we're kind of struggling for more than that, because we feel like a bit of a broken record with some of the other ones we thought of. So if you're
in it,
I mean, Amy, we did think about urine therapy, but I feel like
that's going a bit far.
It's too,
isn't it?
yeah, and I.
Even with our poo stories, we draw the line at urine.
Yeah. By the way, I mean, I don't know
urine.
anything about it, but it just in theory makes no sense to me. So just know
it's
it's a bonus. A bonus one. Do not drink your wee. Have you ever, like? Oh no, never mind. I was going to say, have you ever drunk your own wee, or has it ever been like? I just feel like you're someone, if you're in a dire situation, you'd find a way to make it work.
Yeah, first of all, no, I've never drunk my own urine.
Good, you heard it here first.
Just if anyone else was curious, but I was going to answer that, no. Nor am I tempted to indulge in auto urine therapy. However, if I was, I don't know, stranded on a life raft in the ocean,
What if it wasn't yours?
Oh no, I'd rather die. No, I'll drink my own, but
no one else's.
I'll just decease.
Can you imagine?
Yeah, no, gross.
Yeah,
I'm not that desperate to live.
But you never know what you'll do in really desperate situations.
That's true. Let's pray to God.
Would you eat your flesh of yourself or another human if you had to?
Did you watch that show? What was that plane crash movie?
I don't know. As you know, I only watch rom-coms.
Okay, no, you'll never have seen.
Was there love? Did they fall in love?
Oh no, it wasn't your genre at all. Plane crash. Most people died. The bodies froze. They weren't getting rescued, and then so the living passengers started to eat the passengers.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I don't know. Being honest, I probably would.
Like just frozen, or would you cook it up?
Jesus. Go into the galley cabin of the kitchen and bang it in the microwave with a little soy sauce.
Well, I don't know. Can you light fire?
Well, I don't know. This is a very lot of theoretical.
Maybe if I could cook it. Oh, I don't know.
I reckon frozen you wouldn't be able to taste it properly.
True.
I could pretend I'm not eating human flesh.
Oh,
I would
God.
definitely not want to. And I actually do wonder if I was in that situation if I ever would be able to. But I remember watching that movie thinking, I understand why they're doing that, because they're just hoping to be rescued and trying to last long enough.
Trying to survive, yeah. I guess you can survive a very long time without food, just not a very long time without water.
And snow melt, so maybe it could have been avoided. Anyway.
We're going to leave that in.
Yes, we are.
Well, you have yourself a lovely day, and hopefully we've still got some listeners next week.
Bye for now.